communications. Is it worth gold or silver or maybe even platinum? It depends how much you put into it. By the time you're looking at it, you want to look at what is the richest communication, not in measurements of wealth, but in measurements of quality as it comes down to it. Really, a face-to-face meeting, you can actually watch the person's mouth move, you can see their eyes move, you can see their hands move in the process. And really, if you go back and recall, we talked about the UCLA study that said when the message is not clear, that people rely 92.7% on the nonverbal communication to understand the message fully in its context. So nowadays we sit there, we pull out our cell phone and we sit down and we make all these comments and everything else. People can't see your face. They can't read the emotions off the text that's showing over there. You can put a cute emoji and everything else that maybe try to symbolize your feelings, but that emoji might mean something else to somebody else, or it might be a bit of trivia that probably shouldn't be involved in professional communication as you go through. So you start at the ultimate over here, and then you end up at the lowest level possible where you can't communicate the emotions of just words going through. That's why we talk about the aspect of email. The best use of email is only to deliver informational items, but not how you feel or what is really in the process of what's going on. It's just informational, but you miss a huge part of human interaction and human communication. Your voice is a communication tool as well. You can improve your pronunciation. You can also change the way you're talking. You can work on the voice quality as you go to. You can adjust your volume, make it adjust your rate as you go from fast to slow in the process. You might notice I talk a little bit fast sometimes. The people over in Georgia, they always say, David, I can't hear what you're saying. Can you slow down a little bit? It drives me crazy. And by the way, it drives them crazy too in the process. So sometimes adjusting the volume and the rate that you talk really is a big issue. Control the pitch that you have in your voice as you go through, and master emphasis, combat verbal tics. By the way, I stutter every once in a while. You may have noticed that as well, except for the fact that I work on it on a regular basis, but I keep on talking and nonstop, as you probably noticed that too as well. Improve your pronunciation as you go through. A friend of mine speaks on a regular basis, just about every Sunday. You may figure out what he does for a profession. Okay, and he has a problem with 2 words. And every time he says them, it drives me absolutely crazy because the pronunciation, I'm almost tempted to go through, grab them, put them into a separate room and say these words after me and practice the words with them. That being said, I'm going to do that because it probably hurt his feelings in the process. But think about some of the little words, etc., not etc. As you go through, going to, not gonna. Don't use the gonna word. That's inappropriate. Library, not library. Okay, as you go through, supposedly, not supposedly. As you go through, and the little words, go through, clean them up. Record yourself as you're talking and make sure your pronunciation is really good. Work on your voice quality. Record yourself. Do you sound enthusiastic? How about, hey, I'm your friend. Let's talk about this as friends do. Are you always alert? Are you happy? Are you positive? I'm so positive. Even my blood is B positive as you go through. Yes, that's what it comes down to. Avoid vocal fry, that cranky, raspy at the end of drawn out sentences. I don't know about you, I've had that a couple times, so I need to sit down and have a glass of water by just in case I choke to death while I'm talking in the process. Control your pitch. Use a relaxed, controlled, well-pitched voice as you go through, but don't let people fall asleep. Toss in that enthusiasm every once in a while. Let your voice rise and fall in conversational tones as you go through. Use it as a tool because that's what it is. It's a fine-tuned violin as you go through, just without the strings attached as you go through. Avoid the flat, monotonous tone as you go through because your voice is a tool. You don't want to use it as a weapon to put people to sleep in the middle of your presentation. So that being said, adjust the volume, adjust the rate. Speak as loudly or softly as occasion demands. Don't make your listeners strain to hear you as you go through, and don't speak too rapidly or too slowly as you go through adjusting your rate. Combat the tips, certain words, make yourself sound confident and competent as you go through. Avoid the verbal filters. Stop trying to make yourself sound more than you are sometimes. Use the words you're comfortable with as you go through. And you know what? One of the big things that I'm worried about that we came out of the whole COVID era in the process is that we lost the ability to have small talk. We sat down and we used to be able to talk to people and everything else. Now we're so stuck on Zoom. I can't hear what you're saying because I'm talking to you, but I can't hear any feedback because of the fact this is a video. That drives me crazy because of the fact what you have to say with your mouth, but also with your body language. I can't tell about your responses because of the fact this is a one-way communication tool, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to sit down and try to get your feedback because I can't feel, I can't see any looks in your face. I don't know if you're receiving the message. It's a big deal to a speaker that really likes to have feedback. Whenever you're talking to somebody, use the correct names and titles. If they go by a name, in my case, my name is David. It's not Dave. If you say Dave to me, it's a matter of, ooh, I prefer David. That's my name. Use correct names and titles in the process. I try to make certain I go through, and sometimes my tongue stumbles over people's names, and I practice with it until I get it right, and I make certain I ask them that I finally get it right. Because you know what? Everybody's name is important to them. The titles, in appropriate circumstances, okay, I have a PhD. In the world of academia, it's appropriate to call me doctor. But that being said, I'm not certain it's good in everyday life because normally in American society, you call somebody doctor, usually it's referred to somebody in the medical profession. Either way, it works fine with me. But that being said, when I'm introduced in a formal occasion, I should have the title. It just depends how it comes to. Otherwise, I'm David Bouguet. That's what it works for me. Choose appropriate topics when you're going through. Avoid negative remarks, especially those remarks that sit down there and denigrate other people or insult them, because all that happens is the person you're talking to, they know when you leave the room that you'll be talking about them too. Learn to listen to people. I go back to what my mom told me, David, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to listen twice as much as you talk. Well, that sometimes I talk an awful lot. Listen to learn. People like talking about themselves. People generally like to help other people. If you ask somebody, can you help me with this for just a second? If you don't ask them in the middle of their own deadline, they'd be happy to sit down and help you. So listen to learn, ask them about what they do. People like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about their work. Give sincere and specific praise. You know what? You do a good job. No, you do a good job. I notice you pay attention to the details, and I can't believe how that makes such a big difference in the work that you do. That you're talking about them paying attention to details is much better than you do a good job. Talk about specifics because people realize that then you really know what you're talking about and you're paying attention. And act professional in all social situations. Receive workplace criticism gracefully. If you sit down there and you respond back to them, no matter what happens, you're going to come off as defensive, and the other person is more right in the process. So determine the speaker's intent. When somebody's sitting there saying that, you go through, what's your intent? Because no matter what happens, even if they're wrong, they're probably just 90% wrong, but maybe there's a kernel of truth in there you need to pay attention to fix that 10% in the process. I understand you have a concern. Don't sit down and say, I think you're a flaming idiot. That probably isn't the best response because that doesn't sound very professional as you go through. Instead of sitting down, you can think in your head if you want. Instead, you can sit down and say, I hear that you have a concern. Here's what I understand your concern is. And then repeat it in your own words as you go through. Paraphrase what was said. Ask for more information. I've never heard this before. Can you provide me some information? What would really help me is if you can provide a specific incident where this happened, or 2 or 3 would even be better. Make certain, because sometimes people, they shoot from the hip and they don't have any data with them at all. But if they sit down and they have 2 or 3 people, then you may have a problem as you go through. Agree if the comments are accurate. Yes, I do talk too fast. Yes, I agree with you, and I'll try to slow down. If you can do me a favor, next time we're in class, if you can raise your hand, say, Professor Bouguet, you're talking too fast, I'll do my best, because sometimes I do talk so fast, and if English is a second language, it becomes difficult for people to track me, and I understand that. So that is the rule that I always have in my classes. Disagree. If you don't agree with them, don't let it sit down and ride and make the assumption that they're going to catch up on it. Say, you know what, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with you on this point and this point and this point, and this is what my intent is, and this is what I said. If you misinterpreted, let me explain what I really said in the process and what my intent is on that. If you feel the comments are unfair, don't sit down and let them roll over the top of you. Look for a middle position, learn from the criticism as you go through. If you're going to provide constructive criticism on the job, and by the way, I don't think there's much constructive criticism when it comes down to it. Usually criticism is always hurtful, but if somebody needs to sit down and apply the work ethics that you're expecting out of them, especially if this is somebody that reports to you, be specific, offer to help them, and mentally outline your conversation, what you think is going to happen. And when possible, make certain it's face-to-face. Texting and email are poor ways to sit down and provide any kind of constructive criticism, because almost no matter what happens, there's no emotionality, and you're going to come across as you're being a really nasty person. Focus on improvement and avoid big generalizations. Discuss the behavior. Do not attack the person. Discuss the behavior that's going on or the work ethic that's going on, and use we rather than you. You is accusatory. Encourage two-way communication as you go through. Keep it private and avoid sarcasm and anger as you go through. Rich communications, choose the correct channel. A lot of times the negative stuff should be face-to-face as you go through. Use all the tools you have, voice modulation, up and down, speed, pitch, as you go through. Practice your speeches, especially the critical ones. If you're going to talk to somebody about a topic that's going to maybe offend them, I would practice that, not just in your head, but also out loud, even if it's just you locked up in a room. Plan for success with correct names, pronunciation topics, and above all things, listen well. Take care.